technically worked for him for 10 years developing talent, but go ahead.
Yeah, yeah. What was he like when you met him? Any stories about him?
He was very nice. He had mainly heard about me for a long time through Cornette.
Yeah.
And Vince and Cornette and Bruce Pritchard and a few others used to ride together from time to time. And Jimmy would always tell stories about me and him from his childhood and how we started our own little wrestling organization called the KWA. And well, me and Bolin would do this. Well, me and Kenny, and it was normally me and Kenny. He wouldn't even say Bolin. Well, me and Kenny wouldn't see it that way. Me and Kenny do this. Well, me and Pritchard and Vince, and all we heard, we thought you were a mythical character. We heard your name come up so fucking much. We didn't even think you could possibly be real. So I never met Vince in person until the first time when I was at Freedom Hall to do the match with me managing Cena and Rico against Brock Lesnar and Shelton Benjamin at Freedom Hall. We were the main event dark. And we almost became the opening match on television, but I've told that story a few times. But reflect to my old podcast to find out why me and John Cena and Rico almost opened up Raw, basically because one of the other talents wasn't ready to go. And they said, can you go out there and do that again and change the finish? So I guess I am kind of telling the story. So we're in Gorilla ready to go. And then that other match got ready, and it knocked us off of Monday Night Raw. That would have been cool as shit. If we had opened up Monday Night Raw, because none of us had obviously had any worldwide television experience yet, other than me doing some bit rolls in the back to where no one, I wasn't there as Kenny Bolin. I was just a bit character in the back with Kane and a couple of other things. So, I got in. Cornette takes me over and introduces Mr. McMahon. I want you to meet Kenny Bolin. And I reach out and shake his hand. I said, "How you doing, Mr. McMahon?" And I did it like, Briscoe, because Briscoe was standing right next to him. And he was Mr. McMahon. So I did the same thing. I copied Briscoe. He goes, "Oh my God, not another one." Because of Briscoe calling him Mr. McMahon. He says, "God damn if you're not real after all." I said, "What do you mean am I real?" "Cornette's talked about you so much the past several years, we thought you was a figment of his imagination. We didn't even think you were real." I said, "Oh, no, I'm very real." It's a pleasure to meet you. And then later that night, Christopher is out watching. He's little. He's like, not 10 years. Well, he's about 12, 13 years old. And he's out watching the rehearsals of the matches. And Rico's out there going over his match. Lawler's out there going over his. And because I think he's got a little thing to do on that night as well. And security wants to throw Chris out, because there's not supposed to be fans out there watching and they don't know who Chris belongs to. And I'm in catering. Me, Kane, Cornette, and D'Lo Brown are at one table. Vince McMahon, Stephanie McMahon are off to my left at another table. And then the other guys are scattered out throughout, but we're having catering before the show. And Vince is, ironically, the table off to my left. We can hear every word they're saying, but no one dare goes over there. And me, D'Lo, Kane, because we're all Smoky Mountain guys, and Cornette, all of us work for Smokey. So I was the ring announcer down there from time to time and backstage production, shit like that. And so that's the Smokey table. And then all of a sudden I see Rico and Jerry Lawler walk by and they got my kid. And so they tell me this story. They said, "Kenny, they's about to throw your son out of the building." I said, "Well, that fucking sucks. How would I find him?" "Well, we got him." We said, Lawler says, "Yeah, I know who that kid belongs to. He's given to me." So Lawler and Rico walking back. And I said, "Why were they going to throw him out?" He said, "There's not supposed to really be anybody out there watching us do." I said, "Well, Chris has been watching his shit since he was a year old." I said, "It ain't nothing new to him. He knows what y'all do." So I said, "Well," I said, "Is it okay if he sits here?" And so he comes over and sits with me, and McMahon says, "Hey, Kenny, is that your boy?" And I said, "Yes, that's my son, Chris." I said, "He's about to throw him out of the building, but Jerry Lawler and Rico saved him." "Chris, what would you think about coming over and having dinner with Vince McMahon?" Chris looks at me, "Yeah, he don't want to eat with fucking us. He'd eat with us 1,000 times." He said, "Yeah, come on over." So Chris goes over and gets to have dinner with Vince and Stephanie. So he's sitting over there, and Cornette and Kane and D'Lo. I've never fucking, I think Kane and D'Lo, we've never eaten with Vince. I said, "Well, Chris is." I said, "Chris is eating with him." So he invites him over to have dinner. And so then, of all people, God damn it, what was his name? There's Meow Meow. Jeremy Meow Meow just showed up. I'm trying to think of his name. Tony Gurria. Tony Gurria comes up to me after we've had catering. I've already met Vince in the previous little thing there. And he comes up to me, he says, he just walks up to me out of the blue. Why are you waggling your tail? What are you doing? Don't waggle your tail at the screen. Well, her tail's in front of you. You can't see her. If you use widescreen, her tail was just shaking right in front of the whole thing. And well, she's eating now, so you can't see her. My Filipino thing's blocking her. So yeah, she's eating now. That's where her cat food bowl is. So Tony Garea comes up and I think he's ribbing me. He comes up and says, "Who the fuck do you think you are?" I said, "Kenny Bolin. Nice to meet you." Hold my hand. And he won't shake my hand. I said, "We got a problem?" He said, "Yeah." He says, "Why's your kid backstage eating and catering?" I said, "Well, he was invited to be here tonight." I said, "He was sitting out there watching the guys rehearse, as he's done since he's about 1 or 2 years old." I said, "The security tried to throw him out. Jerry Lawler brought him to the back. And he sat at the table with me, Cornette, and Kane. Vince McMahon saw him, asked him his name. He said, 'Come on over and have dinner with Vince McMahon.' He said, 'I want you to know that my kids have never even met Vince McMahon.' So now I'm turning into a smart. I said, 'Well, I'd be happy to introduce him to you, to him for you.' And now he's really pissed. And I said, 'Man,' I said, 'I'm just here to do my job tonight.' I said, 'My son goes where I go, and he was told he could come here tonight, and I didn't plan for him to be backstage, but they brought him back, and that's where he is.' I said, 'If you got a problem with it, why don't you go talk to either Danny Davis, Jim Cornette, or Vince McMahon? They're the ones that had him back there. And I encourage you to talk to Vince, and maybe he'll meet your kids.' And then I turned and walked away. And then what was it? It was Molly Holly and Ivory. And who was the one that played the superhero like Crash Holly? Molly Holly.
Molly Holly, yeah.
So Molly Holly and Ivory were there. And so they had me come over and talk with them. They said, 'I can't believe you stood up to Tony Garea like that.' I said, 'Well, he was a prick to me in Lexington once over something stupid. And now he's back here being a prick to me again. So I guess he just doesn't like me. Fuck him.' I said, 'He's not the reason I'm here.' And then, what's his name? I don't think he's with us anymore. God damn it. Patterson. Pat Patterson walks up. And he said, 'Man, that was cool as hell watching you stand up to Garea like that. He didn't expect, no one stands up to Tony Garea.'" Good God. Who now? Probably another telemarketing. Doesn't tell me who it is. And it doesn't ring this much when I do the 9 o'clock show. The telemarketers are busy at 6 o'clock. So Pat Patterson walks up and he gets a kick out of me standing up to Garea. "God damn, that was worth the price of admission. Nobody stands up to Tony Garea." I said, "Well, what's he going to do? Fucking beat me up?" I said, "My kid had dinner with Vince. What am I supposed to fucking do about it?" And I've never met Pat before, other than maybe brief encounters. I've never really talked to him. He said, "God damn it, man." He says, "Oh, how come you ain't eating catering?" I said, "Well, he pissed me off, and my son got to eat with me." I said, I'm all right. I'll eat after the show." "No, God damn it, you're going to eat on me." And he bought me a Papa John's pizza. So me and Ivory and Molly Holly shared the Papa John's pizza that he bought us, that he had delivered to the stadium, I guess. And I forget even what catering had. I was just sitting there bullshit because I didn't want to eat before the match, because I know that we're going on pretty soon. We're going to be I think 3 matches were in the darks, and we were the main event dark. And the last thing I wanted to do was eat and throw up in front of 20,000 people. So, so Pat Patterson was impressed with it. The girls were impressed with it. And me and Tony Garea just never got along. So is he still alive?
I don't know. Is the wrestling company, or is the wrestling world that fickle that a guy would get upset about your child eating with someone? Is it really that fucking bad?
The old schoolers have a tendency, and I'm old school, but times have changed. Times are a little different. And I guess I could see, but goddamn, if you're so intimidated by your boss that you won't even introduce your kids to him, and especially if you got as much stroke as Tony Garea, maybe the new fucking guys don't bring their kids backstage. I mean, Vince can't meet every goddamn kid on the roster, So I get that. But as much stroke as Tony Garea's got, I think he can bring his goddamn kids backstage and introduce them to Vince McMahon if he wants. But that was what he hit me with. My kids have never even got to meet him. Well, I can introduce them if you like. Because Vince had heard about me for a long time. So it was like we knew each other when I met him. He just, "Oh, goddamn, you're real after all." So yeah, I'm real. So we got along good. But then again, I've been very critical of him here recently because of the shit that was done. And I'd heard about that shit before. Cornette tried to dumb me up to it here recently on his podcast, claiming he didn't know about it. Yeah, he did. Because this shit's been going around since the mid 80s. Even before Jimmy worked for the company, we heard about all this shit. And when he worked with the company, we heard about shit. And the girls would talk, but they'd be terrified to try and do anything about it because they didn't want to lose their jobs. I was around when Trump groped two of the girls, and they were terrified to say anything because they knew that Vince would believe Trump, and would cover for him because that's his buddy. They're little billionaire buddies, or we didn't know Trump was a fake billionaire at the time, but we're about to find that out now that these taxes have been turned over to Congress. That ought to be interesting. But women get treated like shit in the wrestling business as a rule. It might be getting a little bit better now, but it's still not as fair as it should be.